The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across a clearing choked with the smell of fresh-cut timber and pine. Malachi Brooks paused, his axe poised mid-swing, muscles taut as if the mountain itself held him in place. He squinted into the gathering twilight, the sound of the world falling silent around him, a stillness that vibrated with something unsettling. Two figures stood at the tree line, small and motionless, like darkened branches against the gold and crimson backdrop. His heart quickened, instinctively tightening his grip on the handle. He recognized the signs of intrusion, the way the birds had gone quiet, the shift in the wind. But these two weren't men, nor wolves stalking in the dusk. As they stepped closer, the sun's rays caught their dirt-streaked faces, revealing the innocence trapped within their weariness. Twin children, perhaps no older than 8, gazed up at him with eyes far too old for their tender years. The girl's hair was tangled, her clothes threadbare, while her brother clutched a leather pouch between them, steam billowing from its seams despite the chill in the air. "Who are you?" Malachi called out, his voice gruff like gravel underfoot. He felt the weight of the axe slipping from his grasp as confusion tangled in his mind. The girl took a tentative step forward, her brother following suit, their small feet barely making a sound on the forest floor. "We know what you did to our father," she said, her voice cutting through the evening stillness like a knife, carrying a recognition that seeped into Malachi's bones. Malachi's breath caught, his throat tightening with an ancient fear. "I don't know what you're talking about," the boy chimed in, his tone cracking with raw emotion. "The man with the scar on his neck, the one who screamed when you held him underwater." Malachi's hand instinctively flew to the thin white line, more running from ear to collarbone, a scar he had buried deep beneath layers of remorse and self-loathing. "You've got it wrong," he rasped, each word laced with unease. The girl's eyes narrowed, piercing through the barrier he'd built around himself. "You remember now? Good, because we need you to do it again." A chill rolled through him, deeper than the mountain air. "Do what again?" The axe fell from his grip, the thud echoing between the trees like a judgment. "Kill someone else." The words were a physical blow, pushing Malachi against the rough bark of a pine, the weight of his past pressing down like a storm cloud. "I don't kill people anymore." "Not even for us," the girl pressed, stepping closer, her gaze unwavering. "He was trying to save us." Malachi felt his heart race. He backed away, feeling the roughness of the tree against his shoulder. "If I killed him, then yes, he must have," he said, uncertainty creeping into his voice. "The man wanted to protect us from Sterling," the boy added, the trembling in his voice betraying the seriousness of their plight. A sound broke through the tension, the distant thud of hooves. Both children went rigid, clinging to each other like shadows merging into the darkening forest. "Get behind the tree," Malachi urged, his voice low and urgent. As the rider emerged, dust swirling around hooves, Malachi's heart sank. The gleam of polished boots and a silver-trimmed saddle made it clear. Sterling Maddox had followed them. "Brooks," he called, feigning joviality that felt as false as the smile on his face. "Didn't expect to find you out here. Chopping wood seems a poor choice for a man like you." Malachi's eyes darted to where the children had hidden, fear clawing at his chest. "What do you want, Maddox?" he growled, trying to keep his voice steady against the rising tide of dread. I'm looking for some lost property. 2 native children, twins." The merchant's smile widened, teeth white against the darkening sky. "They've got something that belongs to me." "Belongs to you," Malachi spat, anger bubbling beneath his skin. "They're not your property, Sterling." The merchant chuckled, a sinister sound that curled like smoke through the trees. "Their father signed them over before before his unfortunate accident. Something worth a considerable amount of money to the right buyer." The children pressed closer together, their knuckles white, their breathing shallow as they listened. Malachi could hear the soft whispering of their worry, a melody in the shadows. Then came the words, barely audible but thick with urgency. "He's here." "Do you seem nervous, Brooks?" Maddox taunted, a predator closing in. "That's not like you." He stepped further into the clearing, methodical and calculating, boots crunching on the wood chips. "Your little friends here stopped right at your clearing." A twig snapped behind them, and Malachi's heartbeat quickened. "I haven't seen them." He fought to keep his tone even, wrestling with the guilt threatening to surface. "They're here, aren't they?" Maddox leaned closer, his presence oppressive. "You think it was justice, don't you? That our father deserved what you did to him?" Malachi faltered, a flicker of memory igniting like a match in the dark. A creak at night, a struggle, a man begging. He instinctively raised a hand to his throat, fingers trembling over the scar that had become an anchor of regret. The boy stepped forward, voice cracking. "He was trying to save us." Silence hung heavy in the air, thick as the scent of pine and damp earth, and for a moment, time seemed to stretch, a taut line ready to snap. Malachi's gaze flicked to the trees, searching for an escape, but the forest felt like a cage. "You don't understand what you're asking," he murmured, almost to himself. Memories tangled in his mind, shadows of guilt and shame weaving together. Maddox's laughter echoed, cruel and hollow. "I think I understand perfectly, Brooks. You've already spilled blood. What's one more life to keep these little ones safe?" He gestured dismissively toward the twins, each flinch a dagger in Malachi's gut. The girl's voice broke through the haze. "You think he wanted it like this? You think he wanted to kill?" Her words were raw, laced with desperation. "We just want to live." Malachi's chest tightened, a knot of conflicting emotions threatening to choke him. He met her eyes, filled with a fierce determination he had long since buried. "But at what cost?" he replied, his voice almost a whisper. The sound of hooves grew louder, and he realized the other riders would be close behind, the sharpness of steel echoing in his mind, a reminder of what he had left behind. Glancing back at Maddox, he noticed a silver glint at the merchant's belt, a dagger, ready to be drawn. "Let them go, Sterling," he said, the desperation creeping back into his tone, thin like the air around them. "They're just kids." "Kids, who you willfully let get swept into this mess," Maddox sneered. "Don't pretend your hands are clean." They weren't supposed to know the truth about their father, but you made sure they did. With a sudden burst of resolve, the boy stepped further into the clearing, defiance fueling every stride. "You don't get to control us anymore." Malachi's heart raced, adrenaline flooding his veins as he reached out instinctively to grab the boy's arm. But it was too late. The twins stood their ground, shoulders squared against the threat looming before them. "You think you're brave?" Maddox taunted, tilting his head like a wolf assessing a wounded deer. "Courage will only get you so far when there's blood on the line." A gust of wind swept through the clearing, rustling leaves like whispers of the past. The chill in the air seeped deeper into Malachi's bones, and with it came clarity. If he couldn't protect them, he had lost everything worth saving. "Then let it be blood," Malachi said, steadying his breath and stepping forward, his body rising with purpose. "If it comes to that, I'll fight." The children's eyes widened, flickers of hope igniting in their depths. And in that breath, amidst the gathering dark, he felt the thread of fate twist tighter around them all, binding their destinies in ways he had never imagined. Maddox's smile faltered, surprise clouding his features as he realized the shift in the wind. "You're playing a dangerous game, Brooks." "Then let's play," Malachi replied, his voice a low rumble. The weight of his past now transformed into something more powerful. The tension in the air crackled like the first strike of lightning before a storm, and the forest held its breath, awaiting the inevitable clash. Malachi's heart thrummed against his ribcage, drowning out the world around him. He could feel the weight of the dagger at Maddox's side, a serpent coiled and ready to strike. The twins, brimming with a mix of fear and courage, were his tether. The forest felt alive, roots gripping the earth like hands, branches arching overhead like a cathedral built of shadows and whispers. Maddox's eyes narrowed, assessing the resolve blooming in Malachi's stance. "You think sheer will can shield them?" he scoffed, stepping closer, the crunch of twigs underfoot punctuating his words. "You're a fool if you think I won't end this right now." The girl, emboldened by her brother's defiance, took a step forward. "You don't scare us," she said, voice steady despite the tremors in her hands. "Not any more." As she spoke, a lone owl called from the depths of the trees, its haunting cry weaving through the tension. It was a reminder of the life that flourished in the darkness, a symbol of resilience. Malachi inhaled sharply, the scent of wet earth mingling with the fear in the air, grounding him. "You've twisted their minds with your lies, Maddox," he said, each word carved from stone. "But they're not pawns in your game. They're stronger than you know." The merchant's expression shifted, a flash of irritation cutting through his bravado. "You've always underestimated them," he said, voice low and venomous. "But strength is measured in blood, and I'm willing to shed it." Malachi's gaze darted to the underbrush, where shadows moved, the soft rustle betraying the presence of other riders just beyond the tree line. Time was slipping through his fingers like sand, and the urgency surged within him, igniting a primal instinct to protect. With a swift motion, he drew his own knife from its sheath, the blade reflecting the last light of day. "Then let it be my blood spilled first, if that's what it takes," he declared, the fierce determination echoing in his chest. Maddox's laughter rang out, sharp and mocking. "You think sacrifice is noble? It's a fool's errand, Brooks. You'll bleed, and for what? An empty promise." "Not empty," Malachi said, locking eyes with the twins. A chance to break this cycle. A chance for them to live free of your shadows." The boy stepped closer to Malachi, igniting a spark of hope in his heart. "We'll fight with you," he declared, voice trembling but resolute. The forest seemed to listen, branches bending low as if to witness this moment, a pact formed in defiance of fate. The air thickened, the distant pounding of hooves growing louder, a drumbeat heralding the storm. Malachi tightened his grip on the knife, aware that the stakes had never been higher. "Then let them come," he said, the wind snapping around him like the crack of thunder. "Together, we'll face whatever they bring." Maddox sneered, eyes glinting with malice, but even he faltered for a heartbeat. This was no longer about him. The children stood with Malachi, united, a thread woven through the fabric of their lives, binding them in a fierce loyalty that had long been buried beneath sorrow. As the first rider broke through the trees, a figure clad in shadow and steel, Malachi felt the pulse of something deep within, the knowledge that they were not alone. The past may have haunted him, but here, in this moment, they would write their own story, one thread at a time. The rider reined in, a chill slicing through the humid air as he surveyed the trio with a predatory gaze. His armor gleamed dully under the canopy, the flickering remnants of daylight barely reaching him. A pair of scarred leather gloves hung at his side, fingers itching toward a weapon that promised violence. The ground beneath them felt like it might tremble, charged with the anticipation of an impending clash. Malachi squared his shoulders, adrenaline coursing through him like wildfire. "What do you want?" he called, his voice ringing out like a bell in the silence, defiance threading through it. "Your blood, boy," the rider growled, his voice deep and gravelly, each syllable laced with malice. "And the price for your insolence." Maddox stepped forward, eyes alight with vindictive glee. "They've come for you, Malachi. You think you can shield them?" His laughter danced in the air, cruel and mocking, as he gestured toward the approaching riders, shadows spilling into the clearing like a storm tide. "Look how quickly your bravado crumbles." The twins flanked Malachi, the girl's grip tightening on her brother's arm. "We're not afraid," she shouted, though the tremor in her voice betrayed her fear. Her defiance was a beacon, flickering but alive in the darkness. The lead rider smirked, a grim smile that revealed a chipped tooth, and took a step closer, drawing a wicked blade from his belt that gleamed ominously in the dim light. "Then let's see how courage withstands the taste of iron." Malachi felt the forest surge around him, a silent ally. Leaves shivered as if whispering secrets, the wind carrying the scent of pine, and something sharper. Fear, perhaps, or the awakening of a long-buried strength. He raised his knife, the metal cool against his palm, resolve sharpening with each beat of his heart. "You'll find no easy prey here," he declared, his voice steady as he took a step forward, unwilling to let the shadows of their past consume them. "Together!" he roared, rallying the twins beside him, their hands clasped tight, fingers entwined as if binding them in an unbreakable vow. Their unity shimmered in the gloom, casting aside the weight of doubt. "Foolish children!" Maddox spat, his face twisting in rage. "You think it ends here? You are but pawns in a game far larger than you understand." But the old tales whispered in the branches, the stories of those who had fought back against the tide of darkness. Malachi felt their strength flowing through him like a river, filling the cracks of his resolve. With a fierce cry, he charged forward, the forest roaring to life with him, as the twins followed, hearts pounding in rhythm with their shared purpose. As the first clash erupted, the sound of steel against steel, the harsh notes of a battle beginning. Malachi caught a glimpse of the sky through the trees, lightning streaking across the horizon like a promise of change. They weren't merely fighting for survival. They were reclaiming their narrative, one thread at a time. The earth trembled beneath the weight of their fury, each footfall resonating with the heartbeat of the forest. Malachi's blade met the riders, sparks flying as metal clashed, a flash of light illuminating the grim faces around them. The twins surged behind him, their voices rising in a battle cry that cut through the tension like a knife through silk. A sudden rustle in the underbrush caught Malachi's attention. An old oak, gnarled and ancient, stood sentinel nearby, its roots sprawling like the veins of the earth. He darted sideways, hoping to use it as cover, but the rider was quick, spinning with a feral grace. His scarred glove was now stained with the promise of conflict as he lunged again, seeking weakness. "Stay close!" Malachi shouted, parrying another blow, adrenaline coursing through his veins. The girl pressed against the tree, eyes wide, but a flicker of determination ignited within her. She drew a small dagger from her belt, its hilt wrapped in frayed leather, and stepped forward, emboldened by the sight of her brother fighting fiercely. "Together," she breathed, catching her brother's eye. He nodded, and together they flanked the rider, the tree providing them both a shield and a vantage point. Maddox sneered, watching the scene unfold. "You think you can outmaneuver destiny? You're but a whisper in a tempest." His voice sliced through the noise, a taunting reminder of the shadows that lingered behind every strike. But as Malachi swung his knife, cutting through the air with a fierce intent, the wind howled, rallying behind him. He felt the power of their bond, coalescing into something tangible, a force greater than themselves. The twins moved like a well-rehearsed dance, each step taken with purpose, each thrust aimed with precision. The rhythm of their hearts beat in sync, the pulse of the forest echoing their resolve. Leaves fell like confetti around them, caught in the momentum of their defiance, the air thick with the mingling scents of sweat, dirt, and the tang of iron. A low growl escaped the rider's throat as he staggered back, surprise flickering across his features. Malachi pressed the advantage, heart racing, with the twins flanking him. Each thrust, each parry, becoming part of an intricate tapestry of survival. In that moment, time slowed, the chaos around them fading into a singular focus. They were not mere pawns, they were the weavers of their fate. With one final push, Malachi felt a surge of energy, a crackling sense of purpose coursing through his limbs. He channeled all the anger and sorrow, the weight of their shared histories, and drove forward, forcing the rider to back against the ancient oak, the very roots that seemed to pulse with life, resonating with their struggle. "Your story ends here," he said, voice low but resolute, standing firm against the tide of darkness that sought to reclaim them. It was a new beginning, a thread unspooling into the unknown, and they were the architects of their own destiny. With a roar that shook the leaves from the branches, Malachi drove his blade forward, feeling the cool steel bite through flesh. The rider's eyes widened, a flicker of disbelief mingling with pain, as he stumbled back, pressing against the gnarled oak that had witnessed countless battles long before this day. The twins moved in perfect unison, their trust